majority in the House and the Senate, but Steve just stood there strong for these ideas. He was essential in the welfare reforms that we passed, Learn Fair. When we passed the True Parental Notification Bill, where parents would be involved if their young unwed daughter was contemplating abortion, Steve was just a great ally. And in the Senate, what we were able to do is protect life as we did in Virginia, and make sure that the taxpayers weren't funding abortions in Virginia, America, or anywhere else in the world. And so we like our Virginia values and bringing them to Washington. Now, the reason I'm so glad to be asked by Ralph Reed to speak to the Faith and Freedom Conference here is that it's perfect. And I told Ralph this, I said, this is the way I was raised. And I'll explain that more. But then he said earlier today, he said he was looking at this conference as like an NFL mini camp. And I said, oh, great, perfect. I understand that. Because growing up in the Allen family, our parents would impress upon us on the importance of the 4 F's in life: family, faith, freedom, and football. Not necessarily in that order. However, and I'm going to say how these really do apply, though. As far as in the football family does matter a great deal. It's the only constant, cohesive unit in the coaching profession, because you're going from job to job and place to place. And our parents would always tell the Allen kids, you know, there's nothing more important than family, and that is so true. And you learn some of those later in life. It didn't make sense when you're a kid, maybe. The concept and the importance of faith was inculcated into our lives with grace before every supper and prayers before and after every game on all the teams that my father coached. And indeed, my father had the first chaplain in the NFL, Tom Skinner. The concept of freedom was most impressed upon us by my mother. In her own way, she would teach us about the blessings of freedom. And in times when we'd be moping around because my father's been fired or they lost a game or whatever the stress was, my mother would always say, oh gosh, it's not that bad. At least there's not bombs falling on us. At least somebody's not shooting out our windows because there's a light on. And so, like many of you all, we still hear the voices of our mothers and our fathers still in their teachings. And those teachings later in life really have a great deal of meaning and become poignant. And in my view of life was formed in a football family, and with sports and training camps and on the sidelines and playing football and rugby and sports myself. And watching what's going on in Washington. Watching what's going on up here in Washington, my goodness, there's nothing to cheer about with the decisions coming out of Washington. And a lot of this hit home in viewing America's future through the eyes of our children. Just last year with pride, my wife Susan and I watched our oldest daughter graduate from college. And she started her career, or at least hoped to start her career, finding a job. And it took a while. It took a while for a lot of her friends as well. Some had to move back home, which is a real tough thing for students after 4 years of independence. And but she's found a job, and many of her friends still haven't found jobs and work. And so you look at it that way, and then you hear people saying, well, you know, young people graduating from colleges these years, you know, recognize that you're going to have diminished expectations here. And I'm thinking, my goodness, this is America. In America, we're only limited by our imagination and our ingenuity and our diligence. And it's one of my motivations when people ask me, why are you getting back and, you know, why do you want to run for office again? And there's many reasons that I've decided to get off the sidelines and fight for America's future. These years in private life have allowed me to spend more time with my wife and our children, doing a lot of meaningful, memorable things. And it's allowed me to reflect, to learn, renew, and resolve to advanced ideas and reforms that are absolutely necessary to get our country back on track to become that land of opportunity for all. And this is for future generations, and it's a crucial time in the course of our history. We see in the Senate that every single vote counts, whether it's for that healthcare monstrosity they passed by one vote on Christmas Eve, or whether it's the stimulus spending or failing to rein in the unelected bureaucrats and EPA, every vote counts. Still, though, I must say to you all, it's not an easy decision to run for public office. I did not like losing. I've learned, though, that sometimes you can learn more from losing than you do from winning. Our father in sports always taught us that when you get knocked down, you get back up. You don't brood over mistakes, you learn from them and you improve. And during my last campaign, I never should have singled out that young man working for my opponent, calling him a name. He was just doing his job. I was wrong to do that to him, and it diverted our campaign away from the real issues that families care about. And speaking of families, my family had to endure a lot of taunts and insults because of my mistake. And I never want to have to go through something like that again. Now, however, that campaign, because of that campaign, we also learned more about my mother's experiences and the legacy of my grandfather. His middle name is Felix. My middle name is Felix, honoring him, Felix Lombroso. During World War II, in Tunisia, he was roused out of bed in the dark of night by the Nazis and incarcerated. I saw my dear mother, those terrifying experiences that the Nazis imposed on them, still leaving scars and wounds that continue to hurt her. She had an enduring fear that caused her to believe that the best way to protect her children was to conceal my grandfather, her father's Jewish faith and ancestry. This revelation, though, really did bring our family closer together. For me, the core principle of freedom of religion was no longer just a matter of enlightened Jeffersonian philosophy. It became deeply personal in so many ways, and seeing the heart-wrenching realization that my mother, for all these years, still bore those scars and fear of persecution and being tormented by what those experiences were from the Nazis. Now, learning all of this made me even more sensitive and more committed than ever to the principle of religious freedom and the dignity of every person, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or religious beliefs. It reinforced my belief that when injustice, or the ugly head of anti-Semitism, racism, or repression arises, leaders must deplore it. Otherwise, people will think it's condoned or acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, these last 5 years have given me the opportunity to reflect on all that's happening in our great country. I've been able to listen to people like you express all sorts of fears and frustrations. So many people are anxious. They're worried about their families. They're worried about losing their jobs. There are people who are worried about losing their homes. They're fearful that the out-of-control spending and national debt will rob our children of the opportunities that we inherited. And my friends, what needs to happen is we as Americans need to get back in control of our own destiny. We're vulnerable to others because of the high levels of dangerous debt and because of our counterproductive energy policies. I truly believe that the elections in 2012 will be pivotal in determining the trajectory of our country. Whether people are going to have that opportunity to achieve the American dream, continue to decline, or we begin ascending again. Friends, it is time for an American comeback. And it is a comeback that's based on foundational principles and an agenda that has the principles of freedom, of opportunity for all, and personal responsibility at its core, as opposed to what we're seeing, which is dictates, mandates, redistribution, and initiative sapping dependency on government. There is an urgency for action. We can't dawdle anymore. First, what we need to do, team, we need to rein in this overreaching, overspending federal government. We need to be trusting the people in the states. The 10th Amendment still exists. And I trust the people in the states rather than... Good. We trust the people in the states rather than these sanctimonious social engineers and liberals in Washington and their judges who invent the law and ignore us, we, the people. Second, we need to make our country, our America, more competitive for investment and jobs by reducing the high taxes on job-creating businesses. And we also need to regulate the unelected bureaucracy and the regulator because they're stifling our innovation. Third, team, what we need to do if we're serious about saving families money, creating jobs, national security, and reducing our dependency on foreign oil, we need to unleash our American energy resources and creativity. America is #1 in the world when it comes to energy resources. Russia's second, the Saudis are third. We need to start looking at these resources as a blessing, not as a curse. Friends, 2012 is our generation's rendezvous with destiny. Faithful freedom lovers, we need to smile. Smile as we advance our principled ideas and reforms. Smile because what we are doing is what we're helping our fellow Americans have that opportunity to pursue and achieve their dreams. That's why we care. That's why all of you, whether you're from Virginia or Florida, wherever you're from, are here. And so faith and freedom are great God-given rights. And I hope and pray that America will continue to be blessed with people of your character, and let us all resolve here and now that we will always stand strong for families, faith, and freedom. Thank you all. On to victory for America's freedom.